Hello, my friends. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the autosomal DNA results, predicted phenotype, traits, G25, and GD match results of kzb009, which is a Srubnaya culture woman from Bashkortostan in Russia who lived in the late Bronze Age, 18th to 16th century before the Common Era. Srubnaya culture, in case you aren't familiar, is a culture that is very closely related to the corded ware culture. It is also an Indo-European culture. It is also descends from roughly the same ancestral cultures as the corded ware, also descending from paternal side descent from the Proto-Indo-Europeans in the Pontic-Caspian steppe, and maternal side descent from the Central European farmers. So it is more or less the same descent as the corded ware culture, more or less the same as the corded ware culture overall. And it also ended up sort of blending in with the corded ware culture and essentially being absorbed into the ethnogenesis of the Proto-Indo-Iranians later on in the steppe. So we're going to go ahead and look at the result of this kzb009 Srubnaya individual from Alakulskaya Srubnaya individual from Bashkortostan in Russia. So first we're going to look at her results with Eurogenes 13. With the Eurogenes 13, she's scoring 38% North Atlantic, 34% Baltic. Interesting that she's scoring more North Atlantic than Baltic, so more of this Northwest European specific drift rather than Northeast European drift, which is very interesting to see. However, she is scoring 17% West Asian, so there is a lot of Middle Eastern, or I guess West Asian, which is like Iran, Pakistan, Caucasus, like admixture, which is not present in modern Europeans. I should remind you that this is not a typical score for a modern European. So if somebody says that Srubnaya resembled modern Europeans, there is no modern European that's going to score 17% West Asian on Eurogenes 13. That does not happen. 4.5% South Asian. Once again, it is very, very unusual for a modern European to score like this with this calculator. 2.26% Amerindian, okay, and then there is some trace amounts of Siberian, a little bit of West Mediterranean, and a little bit of Sub-Saharan African as well. As you can see with the Oracle, she's closest to North Swedish, and North German. This is actually different from the Oracle with Eurogenes with G25, excuse me. But as you can see with the two-way mixtures for the mixed mode Oracle, she's getting more or less a mixture of North Swedish plus Tabasaran, North Swedish plus Baloch, Brahvi, Kalash, Lezgin, Pashtun, Chechen, Makrani. So all the secondary population models are all West Asian populations, such as Baloch, Tabasaran, Makrani, Chechen. All of these populations are either in the Caucasus or Iran or Pakistan. So as you can see, clearly this individual has a big shift, major shift towards Iran, Pakistan, or the Caucasus. And if we look at the results with G25, we can see that here they are actually not even closest to Swedes. They are actually not even closest to Northwestern Europe. They are closest to Erzya, Finnish Southeast, Ingrian, Moksha, and various groups of Russia, such as Erzya. Erzya is the closest population here. And for the admixture, we can see that the admixture is 28% Finnish East, 27% Icelandic. So there is a little bit of Northwestern European admixture here as well that's been detected. But there is also 18% Darginian, and Darginian, in case you aren't familiar with what that is, it's a group of people in the Caucasus. 13% Latvian, 10% Pamiri, Roshan Pamiri. Once again, that's a West Asian group. They live in Tajikistan. And then there is trace amounts of Karitiana, Ket, and Juhuan, which is South African hunter-gatherer. Let's try to reduce that to 3 populations, see what we get. So if we reduce that to 3 populations, we get 48% East Finnish, 28.5% Darginian, and Darginian, once again, I will remind you, is Caucasus, so West Asian group, and then 23.2% Icelandic. So mostly this individual with G25, this individual is getting more as mostly Eastern European, Northeast European, with a little bit of Northwest European and a little bit of West Asian admixture. So in terms of modern groups that this person resembles, this person is mostly Eastern European. All right, let's see what they score with my own ethnicity calculator. This might be interesting to see. So here with 365 SNPs, they are closest to Livonians from Estonia, followed by Turkish, followed by Turkic Caspian steppe, followed by Hispanics, followed by Yamnaya, Yamna is really cool to see here because Yamna is sort of ancestral to this person. But then Spiginus 2 from Corded Ware, which is also really cool to see here. Then Iron Age Volga Ka. All right. And for the two-way mixtures, the closest mixture is Luvian from Iron Age Anatolia plus Malta Boy from Ancient North Eurasians. Then the second closest mixture, North Italian plus Batai Hunter Gatherer. Then French plus Kipchak Turkic. Then, yeah, definitely very interesting results here. But I guess they don't make too much sense here because not many SNPs. All right, let's see what this individual looks like for the phenotype, for the Nashakot calculator results, and then for the phenotype. So it looks like they have hazel eye color, 46% likelihood of hazel eye color. Definitely very light for the eye color. The second most likely eye color for them is brown eyes at 27%. They also have a fairly significant likelihood of blue eyes with an amber center or green eyes. They don't have a very significant odds of blue eyes or dark brown eyes. So most likely they have hazel eyes. Most likely she's got hazel eyes. Brown eyes is the second most likely eye color for her, and blue eyes with an amber center or green are up and coming, the third most likely option. But most likely she's got hazel eyes. For hair color likelihood distribution, most likely she's got dark brown hair. The second most likely hair color for her is black hair. After that, it is light brown hair. And after that, it is various, well, dark blonde or light blonde or red hair. This is all very, very improbable. All of these hair colors are very, very improbable for her. She probably does not have these hair colors. For skin color likelihood distribution, she most likely has intermediate or olive skin tone, although light brown skin is also very probable at 35%. White skin or palest skin is kind of possible as well, but not very probable. And dark brown skin is out of the picture. For hair texture, it looks like she has curly or wavy hair, although straight hair and kinky hair is also sort of possible. You can't really exclude that. For nose shape, she most likely has a Greek-shaped nose, although the prediction here is not very definite. Like, it could be either way, really. But there is definitely a little bit of a predisposition to Greek-shaped nose. And for coloring-related variants found in the file, this will be very interesting to check. So it looks like she's got heterozygous genotype here. So this definitely predisposes her to hazelish eye color. She has BH3, which is very interesting, but she has BH3 without having any light color variants here, which is very, very surprising and atypical, unusual, because normally these two variations, even these two variations, come linked together. So her having two light color variants here but none here is very unusual. So if you upload her file to YSEC, they would predict her to have very, very dark eye color. But in reality, that's not the case, because she has this genotype, she has this genotype. In reality, her eye color is not that dark. I'm gonna be very curious to see what Snipper Free has to say about her eye color. I have a feeling it will say it's green or hazel, actually. Yeah, I feel like Snipper Free is gonna say it's green or hazel. Let's find out. And she does not have any light color variants in MC1R. Let's find out what Snipper Free has to say about her eye color. Let's find out. Let's go ahead and check. 23 markers, and let's see. Oh, Snipper Free actually says it's brown, but it's really close. It's 1.28 times more likely brown than green or hazel, so it's actually really close for green or hazel. So Snipper Free was the green or hazel is really close here to brown. So yeah, green or hazel was super close with Snipper 3. And now let's check for the phenotype oracle. So the closest phenotypes to her with the phenotype oracle is this, which is, I guess, a Alpinid phenotype, which is sort of a French or, I guess a French phenotype. The second closest phenotype to her is also a French phenotype, Basque phenotype. But I would say it's also quite frequently found in West Asia and in the Caucasus and everywhere, pretty much everywhere, in Afghanistan too, pretty much everywhere. And the third closest phenotype to her is Mediterranean phenotype. All right, And for the mixture phenotypes, for the phenotype oracle, it seems that she's getting modeled as a mixture of north pointed plus stranded for the closest mixture. The second closest mixture is a mixture of stranded with green eyes plus alpinid. The third most closest mixture is a mixture of stranded plus corded with green eyes. It looks like it has green eyes. The fourth most closest mixture is a mixture of stranded plus corded but with blue eyes. The fifth most closest mixture is a mixture of basket plus alpinid with blue eyes. Definitely very interesting. Very interesting phenotype mixtures here for the oracle. All right, now let's check out her biomarkers panel. Let's see what biomarkers she scores. So it looks like she has a predisposition to higher than average levels of vitamin D. Pretty good. Higher than average levels of LDL cholesterol and lower than average levels of HDL cholesterol. All right, which is those two are quite bad. She has a predisposition to higher than average level of glucose, which is bad. Typical level of hemoglobin, higher blood pressure, which is bad. Looks like she has a slightly higher than average level of iron in the blood, so she might have hemochromatosis variants, the Celtic curse. We might want to check that a little bit. Looks like she has below average level of sex hormone binding globulin. Looks like she has below average level of red blood cell count in blood. Looks like she has average number of base pairs for telomere length. Looks like she has below average for the height. So she has slightly below average predisposition to the height. Definitely very interesting, but for the height panel, I don't really trust it too much. It's not too good. All right. Let's check the polygenic risk scores. Let's see what her polygenic risk scores are. So it looks like she has below averages for kidney stones, below averages for hemoglobin E disease, no risk guidance for that. Below averages for migraine, above averages for lupus, below averages for gout, averages for thyroid cancer, averages for eczema, very low odds for exfoliation glaucoma, which is really good to see. Nothing was found for pigmentary glaucoma. Above average odds for open angle glaucoma and slightly above average odds for primary congenital glaucoma. All right. She's got high odds for PCOS, which is definitely very interesting. So she's maybe got to watch out for polycystic ovary syndrome a little bit. She's got average odds for cataracts, high odds for age-related macular degeneration. Let's look that up, actually. Let's look that up. Let's see what she's got for that. Yeah, all right. So she's got some genotypes that predispose her to age-related macular degeneration, and that makes sense. She's got very high odds for rheumatoid arthritis. Let's look that up. There is only one genotype here that shows up in result, but there is probably a couple more that contribute to the score. So some increased risk of rheumatoid arthritis based on this genotype right here. She's got average odds for Tourette's. She's got below average odds for epilepsy. She's got slightly above average odds for asthma. She's got average odds for leukemia. She's got average odds for vitiligo. She's got slightly above average odds for myopia. She's got below average odds for corneal astigmatism. She's got slightly above average odds for primary biliary cirrhosis. She's got below average odds for stroke. She's got above average, very high odds for male pattern hair loss. So definitely some predisposition to male pattern hair loss, which is typical for various Europeans and West Asians. She's got below averages for atrial fibrillation, no risk variance for that, which is really good to see. She's got below averages for deep vein thrombosis, which is really good to see. She's got below averages for unipolar depression. She's got average odds for bipolar type 1. She's got slightly above average odds for schizophrenia. She's got high odds for type 2 diabetes, and she's got slightly above average odds for type 1 diabetes. And then she's got slightly below average odds for Alzheimer's and very high odds for multiple sclerosis. So let's check the multiple sclerosis panel and see what we find here. Okay, yes, so she actually has a risk variance for multiple sclerosis in the HLA gene, and that explains why she's scoring the way she is for the panel for multiple sclerosis. All right, so her her risks are really multiple sclerosis, type 2 diabetes. It looks like also male pattern hair loss. It looks like also, what was it? Age-related macular degeneration and rheumatoid arthritis are her risks. Aside from that, nothing really stands out too much. All right. For breast cancer, 4 risk variants out of 16, which is really good. For testicular cancer, 5 out of 12, and none of them are in the KTLG gene, which is really, really good to see. So definitely quite protected from testicular cancer. Celiac disease, 2 risk variants out of 6, quite typical. No risk variants for GSS. 3 risk variants for Crohn's out of 8 out of 12, which is really good to see. No risk variants for Riefenstein's out of 14, which is really good. No risk variants for Parkinson's out of 22, which is really good. 2 risk variants for Gilbert's out of 6, which is really typical and all common. 2 risk variants for basal cell carcinoma, which is really very weird. This is actually not really even common. These are not common risk variants. So, looks like they do have risk variants for basal cell carcinoma here, which is really interesting. Maybe there is something else that this individual has risks for. No risk variants for Peutz-Jeghers. No risk variants for hypoplasia. 2 risk variants for Jacob Creutzfeldt, but these are common. No risk variants for Vardenberg. For allergies panel, no uncommon risk variants. For actually, it looks like 5 out of 8, which is kind of high, but still, it's okay. For irritable bowel syndrome, 2 common risk variants. For everything else, I'm just gonna glide through it. It looks like no risk variants for anything that are not common except for myosclerosis, but here it looks like it's only 1. And it looks like it might be a miscall, because when you see 1, it's more often than not it's a miscall. But when it comes to 2s, for example, when the call is homozygous, in that case, I don't think it's a miscall. So for basal cell carcinoma, in this case, I don't think it's a miscall. I think in this case, this person might have a predisposition to basal cell carcinoma for real, but which is a little bit concerning. It's a little bit scary, but you know, it's whatever. We all have some predispositions to something, right? Okay, let's go through the monogenic traits and find out what content I might talk about here. So it looks like for warrior versus warrior, this person, she definitely has a predisposition to warrior phenotype, so quicker dopamine reuptake, low dopamine levels, and higher stress resiliency. Warrior versus warrior essentially has to do with COMT, MAOA, and MAOB genes. And warrior essentially means you have a higher activity of the COMT and MAOA enzymes, and these enzymes break down dopamine, so you have higher activity of these enzymes, quicker dopamine breakdown, therefore lower dopamine levels. Lower dopamine levels at all times means when you are placed in a high stress situation, you have naturally you reach the optimal dopamine level that's needed to function. So you are able to function at an appropriate dopamine level in a high stress situation. So you're a high stress resilience. Whereas if you are a warrior and you have naturally higher dopamine level, when you're placed in a high stress situation, you have too much dopamine and you are not able to function at an appropriate dopamine level. You end up having too much dopamine, and you end up struggling. You end up having anxiety. You end up having a situation where you are not able to function very well in a high stress situation. However, if you are a warrior, you are able to function very well in a low stress environment because you naturally have a higher amount of dopamine. So, for example, in school performance, in a condition where you need to stimulate yourself and motivate yourself, but there is not much stress, there is not much natural stimulation for you. Being a warrior is really good because you get to there's natural stimulation. It's really good. Whereas being a warrior, not really all that good because you get ADHD symptoms. For DRD2, it looks like this individual has a predisposition to intermediate number of dopamine D2 receptor sites in the brain, so intermediate odds for such conditions as schizophrenia and bipolar. And for 5-HT, for levels of 5-HT and serotonin, it looks like they have a predisposition to higher levels of 5-HT and serotonin, so actually lower odds of such conditions as depression and anxiety, which is definitely really good to see. No predisposition to dwarfism, which is really good to see. They have all these genotypes for lower odds of behavioral disorders and anxiety disorders, which is also really good to see. Okay, so for autism, they have a predisposition to higher odds of autism. So this takes into account not only these genotypes here, but also the genotypes that all the genotypes that have to do with autism in the file. For lactose persistence, does not have any derived variants for European lactose persistence, so it looks like this person is not lactose persistent. For OXTR and empathy gene, looks like they have a lower level of empathy. Based on these 5 variations, they have a predisposition to a lower level of empathy. Definitely very interesting to see that. So of course there's other variations besides those in OXTR that have to do with empathy. So there's maybe other genes that are implicated in empathy besides OXTR. We can't exactly say that this person is a sociopath just because they don't have the OXTR variants for empathy, but still, looks like here in OXTR they have variants for lower level of empathy. For hemochromatosis, looks like they do not have any risk variants for hemochromatosis. All right, that's pretty good. And for diabetes, do not have any risk variants for type 1 diabetes. That's really good. All right. So we already saw the risk variants for multiple sclerosis. That's all right. That's typical. That's not typical, actually. That's kind of bad. For cardiovascular disease panel, so based on all of this stuff here, right here, they have intermediate odds of cardiovascular issues. So that's all right. And for myopia panel, they were scoring higher for myopia. So looks like they have higher odds for myopia based on this stuff right here. For facial morphology panel, they have European genotype and EDAR, and then they have higher odds of protruding nasal bridge, and they have slightly thicker eyebrows. All right. For the vitiligo panel, they actually have 2 risk alleles here in the HLA gene, so I'm expecting that they would have pretty bad score for the HLA gene panel because they have so many risk variants in the HLA gene. So I'm expecting something pretty bad for the HLA gene panel. For the miscellaneous sections, look at that. Looks like they don't have the micropenis, no micropenis. Looks like they have 1 fat gene variant and FTOs are rested in IP9601, so heterozygous for the fat gene. Better performing muscles, likely sprinter rather than endurance athlete. And not an Asian flusher, lower odds of alcoholism, normal risk of esophageal cancer. They have this very rare genotype that leads to much larger brain volume, which is definitely very interesting. The risk of heart failure due to beta blocker medications is significantly higher than average, which is definitely very interesting as well. They have no risk variance for pain hypersensitivity out of 8 total, which is definitely really cool. No risk variance for familiar Mediterranean fever. Not a carrier for albinism or any of the atypical traits. And the risk for alcoholism is slightly above average. Okay, for MTHFR panel, looks like they don't have any risk variance for elevated homocysteine levels in the MTHFR gene. We're gonna check for leukemia panel. I think this is an HLA gene, so there no risk variance here. That's really good. But they do have some risk variance for leukemia, like here, for example. For the rare diseases and traits panel, they have 1 risk variant for panic disorder right here, which is really rare and uncommon. Do they have any other rare, uncommon risk variants? They have a risk variant for rheumatoid arthritis here. I think we looked over that already. They have a risk variant for aspirin-induced asthma. And that's pretty much it. No risk variants for anything else. For celiac disease, no risk variants in HLA DRB1 here. So that's pretty good. For HIV, no risk variants for HIV. No protective variants from HIV. That's pretty bad. But no risk variants here either. That's pretty typical. For HLA gene panel, looks like they have a predisposition to intermediate or slightly higher odds of autoimmune disease. So that's kind of what I was expecting them to score because they have so many risk variants. It would be a little bit unusual for them to score lower, but I wasn't sure if they'd score slightly higher or highest. So it looks like they're scoring slightly higher for the odds of autoimmune disease based on HLA gene panel, which is definitely a little bit concerning to score like that. For the MTRR gene panel, looks like they have no risk variants for collagen metabolism, disorders of collagen metabolism, which is definitely really good to see. And for homocystinuria panel, no, definitely lower homocysteine levels, which is really good. This is really good to see that. It's really good to see that. Predisposition to lower homocysteine levels is really good to see. All right. For muscular dystrophy myopathies, no risk variants for that. No risk variants for ADL either. Color blindness panel, she's got one risk variant for color blindness in OPN1SW, but nowhere else. So probably is not colorblind. Also, women generally do not get color blindness, so she's probably safe. For FTO gene panel, looks like she's homozygous for fat gene variants here and here, but she's heterozygous here. So definitely has some predisposition to being fat. Definitely some predisposition to obesity for sure. She's also got D genotypes for higher odds of obesity. For syncope panel, based on 2 SNPs, she's got below average odds of syncope. And for bio traits panel, looks like she's got dry earwax, no body odor, likely Asian ancestry. Wow, that's really cool. So she's got this really East Asian genotype here that leads to drier earwax and no body odor. That's very interesting. That's definitely very interesting. Well, what other genotypes can I talk about here? She's got the genotype which leads to lower risk of hypertension and obesity, lower response to Viagra, and less weight gain when treated with clozapine. Okay. She's got genotype for slightly higher blood sugar, increased blood pressure. We remember she was scoring higher for blood pressure in the biomarkers panel. Lower levels of vitamin E and typical levels of vitamin K. For blood group panel, it looks like she's got blood type O. Blood type A is coming in second place at 34%. So it's really blood type O or blood type A, but blood type O is most likely here at 65%. Let me zoom in. So it's most likely blood type O or blood type A. Blood type O, she's scoring 65% for that. For blood type A, she's scoring 34%. It's definitely not B or AB, but out of O or A, I'm inclined to say it's most likely O because of these two genotypes. But you make the decision for yourself. You judge for yourself what you think it is. Anyway, thanks for watching my video until the very end. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. I sure hope you enjoy my content. Also, I want to remind you that the link to download the raw DNA file that I was analyzing in this video will be in the description of the video. The link to buy the executable for Trade Predictor executable that I used to generate these reports will also be in the description of the video as well. It's on itch. The link to buy a report for $4 that you can just buy a report for your file for MyHeritage, Ancestry, 23andMe. That will cost you $4. That will also be on in the link in the description of the video as well. If you wanna buy a report for 2 files, that's gonna cost you $7. So that's really cheap. Make sure you check out the description for sure. Thanks for watching. Leave a like and subscribe. Goodbye.